Hello friends, in this video we will learn about Mendel's observations and laws. Gregor Mendel was an Austrian monk who, through his experiments with pea plants, uncovered the basic principles of genetics. He observed certain patterns of inheritance and formulated three fundamental laws of inheritance. First law, law of dominance. Let us understand what it is. Suppose we take a pea plant with a pure tall genotype Tt and cross it with a pure dwarf plant Tt. In this case, the pure tall plant can only produce one type of gamete, that is T, since it is homozygous for the trait. Similarly, the pure dwarf plant can only produce one type of gamete, that is T, during fertilization, the gametes. From these plants unite randomly. As a result, all the plants in the first filial generation, F, will be hybrids with the genotype Tt. However, all these plants will be tall because the allele T masks the expression of the allele T, so the plants in F will have a dominant phenotype, although they carry both alleles like their parents. What does this observation tell us? It shows that when an organism receives two different forms of a trait, two different alleles, only one of them is expressed in the F generation. This expressed trait is called the dominant trait, and the hidden one is called the recessive trait. Hence, the first law states that during the inheritance of a character, if both parents contribute different alleles, only the dominant allele will be expressed in the offspring. Now let us summarize this law, law of dominance. When an organism receives two different forms of a trait, two different alleles, only one of them is expressed in the F generation. This expressed trait is called the dominant trait, and the hidden one is called the recessive trait. For plants, T equals tall dominant and T equals dwarf recessive. Even TT looks tall because T overrides T. Let's see the second law, the law of segregation. You may be wondering, where did the dwarf trait go in the F generation? If the trait is heritable, why didn't it appear in the F generation? Did it vanish? Let us do one more experiment to find out what happens to the recessive allele in the F generation and how it is transmitted to the next generation. We will perform a cross between two hybrid tall plants, that is, TTT. Both the parents are tall, but they carry the recessive allele T, so the gametes produced by these plants are T and T. Let us draw a Punnett square to visualize all the possible combinations of alleles in the F generation. Out of 4 genotypes, 2 are homozygous and 2 are heterozygous. Genotypic ratio is 1TT, 2TT, 1TT. Out of 4 phenotypes, 3 are tall and 1 is dwarf. Phenotypic ratio is 3 tall, 1 dwarf. You may note that the dwarf plants reappeared in the F generation after being absent in the F generation. Where did the dwarfal LET go in the F generation? It did not vanish. It was hidden or masked by the dominant allele T. Now, according to the law of segregation, each organism contains 2 alleles for each trait. During gamete formation, these alleles segregate so that each gamete carries only one allele for a given trait. At fertilization, the 2 alleles unite again, one from each parent. Now let's see the third law, the law of independent assortment. So far we have learned that the inheritance of one trait is not influenced by the inheritance of another trait. But let us check whether it is always true or not. Mendel performed experiments by considering 2 traits at the same time, plant height and flower color. For plant height, he used T and T, where T represents the tall allele and T represents the dwarfal allele. For flower color, he used P and P, where P represents the purple allele and P represents the white allele. He crossed a plant with pure tall purple flowers, that is TPP, with a plant having pure dwarf white flowers, TPP. All the plants in the F generation were tall and purple, that is TPP. Now he allowed the F plants to self-pollinate. He obtained the following offspring in the F generation: 9 tall purple, 3 tall white, 3 dwarf purple, and 1 dwarf white. What does this ratio indicate? It shows that the inheritance of one trait is not influenced by the inheritance of another trait. The allele for tallness is inherited independently of the allele for purple color. The allele for dwarfishness is inherited independently of the allele for white color. Hence, the third law states that when 2 or more traits are studied at the same time, the alleles for one trait assort independently of the alleles for another trait, provided the genes are on different chromosomes or far apart on the same chromosome. So these are the 3 laws of inheritance discovered by Mendel. His experiments with pea plants revealed the basic principles of genetics, which apply to all organisms. Hope you found this video useful. Go and check out other videos also. Thank you.